la famille.
Hi everybody. We always very happy to be here and talk about, Silicon Valley. Something that is very interesting. You mentioned that Europe is maybe toxic, for startups, and I totally agree with that. I've been running several startups here, some of them, also in Silicon Valley. But I've got a good news and I've got a news also for you that maybe Silicon Valley can be toxic also for startups. So that's what we're going to talk about. At the same time, I want you to go to Silicon Valley. So that's going to be a very interesting, very interesting conversation we have together. Should I go or should I stay? If I want to mention, the clash. Do you want to clash or not? That's maybe the other question you may have. I'm sorry, guys. I'm totally jet lagged. I arrived, from San Francisco just 4 hours ago, so I haven't slept, for the last 20 hours. So I'm supposed to be very energetic, when I talk, and sometimes very provocative. I don't know if I will be that, today because I'm pretty tired. Anyway, we'll see. You would tell me. You can disagree, on Twitter. Maybe I will fall asleep, The important, thing is that you don't fall asleep, So let's go. So yes, so first of all, just a quick introduction about the refiners. It's a brand new project we have. And the ambition we have with the refiners is to create a new type of accelerator. Because when you go to the Silicon Valley, you don't want to do something better than others. You want to do something different. Don't go to the Silicon Valley to do something better. Go to Silicon Valley to do something different. That's what Silicon Valley is about. Doing something different, not better. If you go there, to do something better doesn't work. So that's the same for us, with the refiners. We didn't want to do another accelerator, something that is better. There is already a lot of accelerators, in San Francisco, very good ones, like YC or 500 Startups, AngelPad, that is one of our favorite one. There is very good accelerators, but with the refiners, we wanted to do something different. And the model we have in mind is what we call a cross-border accelerator. And I will talk about this concept of cross-border. The cross-border, the idea we had, with the refiners is that we were tired, to see two types of startups coming from Europe to Silicon Valley. The first type of startup we see in Europe are what I call, ponycorns. What are ponycorns? It's like unicorns. It's as difficult, to create ponycorns like as unicorns, but they have the size of a pony, and they never raise, they're just small stuff, like that. And there is some ponycorns, here in Europe. It's basically there are startups that don't move, don't go global, from day one. They stay local. And there is certain type of business, certain type of technology where you have to move to Silicon Valley because Silicon Valley is the center of the industry. And you have to be there, to expand and to become a global player. And sometimes we see here in France, but also all over Europe, very talented startups, very promising, startups, very smart entrepreneurs, but they stay, local. And that doesn't make any sense. And they end up building what I call the ponycorns. These unicorns, but with the size of a pony. And the other type of startups, we were tired to see are startups, that think, that they're going to take a flight, go to San Francisco, and everything is going to be easier, because as you know, Silicon Valley is a wonder world. That money, is everywhere. Everything is easy, and it's not. And we see a lot of startups, coming from Europe, asking us for advice, and they fail because they don't have the key, to understand the culture, the value, how business is run, in Silicon Valley. And if you don't understand the concept, the ecosystem, because Silicon Valley is really an echo chamber, with very specific value and very core, culture. If you don't get that, you're going to fail for sure. So we want to create a model in between that we call the cross-border model, where it's basically companies coming from Europe that exist, that get global, from day one, that basically exist in their home country, but in Silicon Valley too, and have this global culture, existing in the two sides of the ocean, from the first day, and take the advantage of both countries. And there is a lot of advantages, to be here, and there are a lot of advantages, to be in Silicon Valley. And to do that, you have to be cross-border. And cross-border means, to exist here and there at the same time. And it's a big challenge. But if you succeed in doing that, you've got a great advantage, even on startups, in Silicon Valley. And that's what we're going to talk about. So just very quick. So what is a Refiners? So it's an acceleration program. We've got 2 fleets. We don't talk about batch, we talk about fleets, because it's only for foreign founders moving to Silicon Valley. So we've got 2 fleets a year. Next fleet will be in September. And we select 12 to 15 startups for a 3-month program in San Francisco. And what do we offer? We offer funding, money, because money is key in Silicon Valley, mentorship, education, and networking. And we're going to talk about that, because all these elements are essential if you decide to move to Silicon Valley. So I'm doing that with Pierre, that is here with me. We are 3 partners, Pierre, Geraldine, and me, all serial entrepreneurs. We've been in the Silicon Valley for many years, but it's not only about us. We put together a network of very, very experienced, entrepreneurs, and this is not an aquarium of French guys, in Silicon Valley. This is absolutely not what we want to create. As you can see, the people in our network are, of course, French guys, European guys, but also international guys, and very, very well-known, entrepreneurs, in Silicon Valley. We've got Reid Hoffman, Gary Vaynerchuk, Joe Ito, for example, from the Media Lab, Rick Marini, that was the founder of Brainchild, Phil Libin, that is a founder of Evernote, now a partner at General Catalyst. Well, a ton of guys. Here is just a quick selection of the guys, we are working with. All these guys, or they invested in the Refiners, or they are working with us to mentor, the startups, we bring from abroad. So very quick, what you get, it's very simple. We invest $50,000 in cash for 3 to 7% of equity. So we're targeting mainly early stage companies that have a global vision from day one. And you have a 3-month hands-on program, in San Francisco. We take care of the office. We take care of everything. We help with legal help, if you have to incorporate in the US. And more important, we bring you all the mentoring and the advice, from a community of successful entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. And at the end of that, we've got like what we call a V-Day. It's like a D-Day, the débarquement. It's a day, in San Francisco where we present all these very talented, entrepreneurs from abroad to American investors, but also European investors. We are very excited, to ask, VCs, French VCs, to go to San Francisco to invest in French companies. That would be very funny. So, why should you consider the Refiners? And I don't want to talk too much about that and talk more about Silicon Valley right after. It's really, if you have a project that is really, that you think can have a global impact, that really can make, the world a better place, like we used to say in Silicon Valley. I know that when we say something like that here, people are always laughing, these guys in Silicon Valley, they want to make a world a better place. But guess what? That's exactly what they're doing, by the way. That's exactly what Silicon Valley is doing. Take just, for example, automotive, for example. Who is right now innovating, in the automotive space? It's not BMW, it's not Nissan, it's not Renault. It's Tesla, okay? It's Google, and it's Uber. All these companies come from Silicon Valley. And if you look at what happened with Tesla a few weeks ago with the Model S3, it's amazing. That they sold 400,000 Tesla S3 in 72 hours. Do you know how many cars, Ford sell a year? Guess the number. 225,000 in a year. Ford. I'm not talking about a small brand. I'm talking about Ford is selling, 225,000 cars a year in US. Tesla, Elon Musk, the new guru of the Silicon Valley, come, and he does a Kickstarter. That's what he did, He did a Kickstarter. He basically put, his model, and people, bought this model. They don't even know what is this car. They don't even know when they will get, this car. And he changed the rules. He totally changed the rules. He changed the status quo. Everybody was saying that car was not a very interesting industry anymore. And Tesla is proving the reverse. It's proving that right now, automotive can be very exciting and a very exciting business. The sales growth of Tesla year per year is 75%. 75%. When BMW, when they do 3% a year, they're very excited. They're like, wow, that's crazy. We made 3% more, this year. Tesla is doing 75% of growth every year. Selling, 400,000, cars like they sold, pre-sold, in 72 hours, they brought 400 millions in cash in the company, 12 billions of orders in the company. How much do you think this company is valued, right now with a pre-order of 12 billion? That's exactly what Silicon Valley is about. You take something that everybody believes, is stuck, and you make it different. You change the rules, you change the status quo, and you create something totally different and new. And that's exactly, what companies in startups, in Silicon Valley are doing. So let's talk about that. So next fleet, it's September 12th. So if you're one of these companies, that you believe that can have a global impact and want to be a global startup, from day one, and not, one thing that Pierre loves to say, that I really love, is he says, international doesn't make any sense anymore. When startups or even companies says, I'm going to start local, I'm going to start in my country, and if it works, in my country, then I will go international. Then after I will go, London, and then after I will go to US, etc. This is crap. This doesn't work anymore. You have to be global from day one. And it doesn't matter, where you are. You can be in France, but your culture, I'm talking to you in English. Fuck. Your culture has to be global. You need to think global. You're not here, to create a startup just for your neighbors, or just for Paris. Come on. The landscape, allows you to create something that can have a global impact, but your culture has to be global, your organization has to be global, your investors, also need to be global. Stop, thinking that you shouldn't just have, investors from Paris. Who told you that? You should have investors from all over the world. And that's exactly, what we should do. Okay, let's go now, and let's play Silicon Valley. So, okay. After what I said, I'm sure that you all decided to move to Silicon Valley, of course. If you say no, I'm stuck, and the presentation is over. Okay? So you've decided to play in Silicon Valley. That's great. Now, just something very important that you know. So welcome to the Champions League. Silicon Valley is really the Champions League. Here you're playing in the National League. That's cool. It's great. But Silicon Valley is Champions League. It's really somewhere, where everything is harder. Yes, it's better, but it's stronger and it's faster. Everything is going, higher. I used to see, entrepreneurs coming to us, and we see a lot, every week, and they say, France, it's toxic. Yeah, I want to move to Silicon Valley because it's easier in the Silicon Valley. I've been reading, TechCrunch every day. Everything looks, so easier here in Silicon Valley. So that's why I want to come here. French, they don't understand anything about what's. And in fact, that's a very bad reason, to come. You should move to Silicon Valley not because it's easier, but because it's harder. That should be your main, motivation to move to Silicon Valley. Take the example when I was saying welcome to the Champions League. Imagine you're a football player, okay? You play at Sochaux. Anybody from Sochaux? I always take Sochaux, I don't know why, but imagine you play at Sochaux, and you're a very good football player, okay? And you love playing football. Even maybe you love Sochaux, that's fine, okay? But then one day, you've got the opportunity, to go to play to the Barcelona, to the Barca. Do you think you're gonna go, first of all, you're not gonna say no. If you're a real football player, okay, if you're a real entrepreneur, and if you got the opportunity to go to play to Barca, nobody will say no, okay, unless you come from Madrid, okay? But if you love, playing soccer, and if you've got the opportunity, to go play to Barcelona, you're gonna say yes. Of course, that was my dream, Since I've started, playing soccer, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to go play to Barcelona. And then the second thing, very interesting, you will never do that just because you're going to make more money. I don't know a real football player that is saying, oh yes, I'm going to go to Barca, because I'm going to make more money, or because it's going to be easier. No, it's not their motivation. Their motivation is just to be at the right place, in the best team in the world, and play, at the center, of the soccer industry. And center is in Barcelona. Sorry, guys, I come from Barcelona. I hate, Madrid, so I got this example, with Barcelona. I try to erase this guy in the middle, because I hate this guy, by the way. But I couldn't find one, with Messi in the middle, so let's move on. So the right motivation for you to go to Silicon Valley is just because you have to be there. And guess what? It's going to be harder. Everything is going to be harder. It's like when you play in Barcelona. Everything goes faster. When you get tackled, you get tackled stronger. And what is even, more difficult to understand, that if you go to play to Barcelona, maybe you're not going to play. Maybe you're going to stay in the bench, for 1 year, watching others, playing. And that's something that can happen to you if you move to Silicon Valley too. So let's think about that. I used to say that Silicon Valley is like climbing Everest. Okay? Silicon Valley is, I know that the family used to talk about the internet nation. And they're very right. Okay? Internet is a global nation. But San Francisco and Silicon Valley is the capital of this nation. That's for sure. And when I compare, Silicon Valley with Everest, it's exactly the same. Everest is in Tibet. Cool for Tibetans, guys. Okay? But before being in Tibet, it's the highest, mountain in the world. And that's why you know Everest for. Okay? Because it's the highest mountain in the world. Silicon Valley is the same. It's in US. That's cool for US guys, But before being in US, it's the capital, it's the center of the tech industry. That's what you should think about. Now the problem, exactly the same like with Everest, is that you're not Tibetan. That's your problem. When you think about Tibetans, guy, they genetically, modified. They can live, in high altitudes, because they don't have the same DNA than we have. Okay, so you are guys from the lowlands trying to climb, the Everest. That's what you are. Sorry, you're not Tibetans. So you need to adapt. You need to get prepared, because you're going to be exposed to very high altitudes. Okay, and that's not very easy. And guess what? It's different, and it's hostile. You might end up, like the Martian guy. I love this slide. It's not from me. The problem is that I don't remember who it's from. But it's what I call the Silicon Valley reality check. It's basically, this is the effort you're going to have to make to go to Silicon Valley, and the time it's going to take. And this is, if you're not a resident, basically you're a tourist. If you're not there, If you think that you just move there, take a flight, spend some weeks, in Silicon Valley, you're a tourist. This is what you are, nothing else. You can't imagine, the number of emails we receive with people saying, oh, by the way, I'm gonna be in Silicon Valley from October 15th to October 19th. I've got a slot available on the 18th. Can you introduce me to Anderson? Of course. I was just reading, TechCrunch. They were talking about you, wondering when you will be here, because everybody's waiting for you. Fuck you guys, you're tourists. That's what you are. You have no place here, and everybody know that. It's going to take you a lot of time and a lot of effort, if you're in this category. Now, you can be a newbie. It's going to take time. It's going to take you effort, but less than if you're a tourist. Now, if you've done that elsewhere, even if it's not in Silicon Valley, it's going to be easier, okay? If you come from Stanford or the MIT of Berkeley or Harvard, yes, it's going to be easier, a lot easier. And then the best category, if you're a local shark founder, is going to be very easy. But we're not that, The only category we can fall into is, let's forget about that, okay? So if you're here, don't even consider, moving to Silicon Valley. You have to be here or maybe here, okay? If you've done Stanford, some of you maybe have done Stanford, too. So now, what I was saying also before is that, yes, you're right, Europe can be toxic, for startups, but guess what? Silicon Valley can be very toxic also for startups. Talents are very, very difficult to recruit. Okay, there was an article, maybe 2 weeks ago, was a story of an engineer, saying that he got an offer of $125,000, just a junior developer. That's the price of a developer, in Silicon Valley. It's $125,000 a year. And just shopping around for 2 weeks, he got a $250,000 offer in just 2 weeks. That's the price of the talents in Silicon Valley. It's totally insane to put your R&D and engineering team, in Silicon Valley. It doesn't make any sense. And that's where, the cross-border model is very interesting. We've got an advantage on them. If we can create our engineering team here in Europe, where we have very great engineers, much more accessible. I'm not talking about the price, because as we say, in Silicon Valley, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Okay, so you should pay your developers. But I'm saying about, the quality of the developers we have here in Europe, but more important, the accessibility, of these developers. Just give you some figures. In US, there is approximately 1.2 million developers, in the country. For 3,900, startups post-Series A. 1.2 million developers, 3,900, startups post-Series A. In Europe, there is 1.6 million developers. Practically it's the same number, okay? There is only 900 startups, post-Series A. You see the difference? That's where, we, being in Europe, having your engineering team in Europe is really an advantage, because you're not competing, with the developers. There is another number that says that US will need approximately 1.5 million developers more in 2020. There is only 400,000, right now in universities. So there is 1 million developer missing. So it's a war. And when you try to compete, on engineers, in Silicon Valley, you will never win against, the big guns like Google, Facebook, Twitter, Airbnb. I've got a friend of mine that is VP product, at Airbnb. I was meeting with him, last week, and he was telling me, I don't know if you've ever seen, the office of Airbnb is just, it's heaven, it's paradise, it's wonderful. And he was like, I cannot recruit engineers. I cannot find, engineers. It's Airbnb. So that's interesting. So it could be very toxic. Money, also is very toxic. And timing also is very toxic. Why? Because Silicon Valley is exactly like Hollywood. There is trends, okay? Like in Hollywood, we're doing, right now, let's say, for example, we're doing movies like Western movies, okay? If you come with a scenario, with dinosaur, people will look at you like, no, we're doing movies with dinosaurs, 2 years ago. We're not doing dinosaurs, movies anymore, We want Western movies, right now. There is like a cycle. So, for example, I see a lot of startups coming to us saying social network. It's over. Nobody want to invest, in social network anymore. Game is over. Facebook won. It's over. Goodbye. So what are the trends, right now in Silicon Valley? If you want to be in these trends, artificial intelligence, VR, bots. I'm bored. But everything is bots, that's everything. You got a company, you put bot in the name, you maybe raise money, just by putting, but the name, just put bot, in your name, whatever, your Sherpa bot, whatever. So this kind of trend, so you need to understand, the timing in Silicon Valley. If you are in the right timing, that's very important for you to understand that. More important, that's not from me, but success is a journey. It's going to take you time. It's not a question of destination. It's not because you are in Silicon Valley or you are in San Francisco because you just moved to San Francisco that you're going to succeed. You need to accept what it takes, to go to Silicon Valley. So here are a few tips for foreign founders to succeed in Silicon Valley. First one, maybe the more important, I'm sorry, but stop focusing on your ideas. We don't care about your ideas. No, really. They're worth nothing. There is very talented people, very smart people. Really in Silicon Valley, you've got very smart guys, they have great ideas, every day. So we're not missing ideas, in Silicon Valley. That's not what we're looking for. When I see, startups and founders, from Europe coming to us, they always say to me, I've got a great idea. Yes, I've got a great idea. I've got 10 of great ideas. I eat, great ideas for breakfast, every day. So I don't care about your ideas. The real thing you should think about, and that's what Silicon Valley is focusing on, is problems. I know that for French guys, problems, you don't like problems, because when you get a problem, you create a third problem, with a problem. You love to generate problems over problems, That's the culture here. But problems are opportunities. That's, how Silicon Valley treats, problems. A problem is very interesting because a problem needs to be solved. And if the problem is big, that means that there is a big opportunity and that maybe you can sell it. And we're very surprised, every time, we receive, entrepreneurs, we say, okay, what's your project about? And what is very interesting with European founders is that most of the time, they explain what are they doing. They explain the product, they explain the technology, they answer the question what, and they never answer the question why. Why are you doing this? So sometimes they expose, wonderful technology, great products with a ton of features, and we're like, so what? What is the problem? Are you really solving a problem here? And can you really say, that this is a problem that you know that there is a real problem to solve because you've been, maybe surveying, the market, and you understand that there is a problem to solve. So just a quick tip on that. This is what a Silicon Valley pitch looks like. First of all, you're going to expose an obvious problem. Obvious is very important. Obvious means, that when you expose, this problem, everybody has to say, oh, yeah, that's right. Don't invent a problem that doesn't exist. You need to come with a problem, that is real, that everybody will say, oh, yeah, I know this problem. I have this problem, myself. Or my son has this problem too. So expose, the problem first. Second thing you do, you demonstrate that it's a big problem. It's not a small problem, just for 10 guys, it's a big problem, okay? The third thing, you're gonna tell how you're going to solve the problem. And the fourth thing, very important, is why are you qualified, to solve this problem? So the pitch is about problem, 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 problem. It's only about the problem. So stop focusing, on the dead chicken parts of your technology, the features. Oh, I've got a great feature. When you click here, it does that. Oh, wow, that's cool. For what? I don't know. It's cool? Yeah, it's cool. It's great technology. But it doesn't solve any problem. And why, focusing on big problems is important. Because big problems, they create an emotional, response. Okay? Think about, Tesla. They're not doing cars. This is not what they're doing. They're trying to make the world a better place. They're trying to replace, thermic, engines and create an alternative to save the planet. Okay? You can disagree, with that. Big problems, generally, create a debate. And that's what you want. Because a debate means that people are going to talk about you. And that's what you want. You want people to talk about you, even if they disagree. That's fine. 50%, will think, that you're genius. 50% will think you're wrong. But 100% will talk about you. And that's exactly what you want. Okay? And big problems are memorable. You remember, big problems. And that's what you want also. You want your startup to be memorable. So most of the time, what we do at the Refiners is really the first thing we do is to ask you this stupid question maybe is, what problems are you solving? Okay? And is this problem a big problem? And how can we build, a story and go to the market correctly with this problem to create a debate, to create attention? Because Silicon Valley, there is a lot of noise. And if you cannot break through the pack, with a consistent story, you're not going to make it. And also, big problems are very important because they motivate people. When you say that you're solving a big problem, everybody wants to work, at Tesla right now. When it's a nightmare, working at Tesla. Elon Musk is like, I never work, with Elon Musk. But everybody working with Elon Musk says, this guy is crazy. It's very hard to work with this guy. But it doesn't matter. Everybody wants to work with him because he motivates people. And because it's very difficult to recruit in Silicon Valley, you need a big problem. Because that's going to motivate people to work for your company. And that's very important also in terms of attracting talents. And the second, another thing very important, so the first thing is not ideas, it's problems. And the third thing very important that you need to think different. And that's not Elon Musk, who told us that. It's Steve Jobs. When he came back with the iMac, you remember what was, the advertising, with iMac. It was not showing any computer. You remember the campaign, it was Picasso, Gandhi. It was very memorable, people. And the baseline was think different. iPhone is not a better phone. It's a different phone. Actually, it was a very shitty phone. It's still a shitty phone. I think that Samsung phones are much better, but who cares? At Apple, is really bringing something different. It's like a mission. You have an Apple, or you have a Samsung, and it doesn't mean the same. It's less and less true. I regret that, It's less and less true right now. With the iPhone 38, it's less and less true. But it was true, before. So you need to start thinking as Silicon Valley startups, do. So there is two categories, loser and winner. Sorry. So the loser, let's try to make a comparison, in between the two. On the loser side, you got Me Too products. It's basically I'm gonna take a product that exists, and because I'm very smart, because I'm a great engineer, I'm gonna make it better. Okay? It's gonna be faster, it's gonna be cheaper, whatever, and it's not gonna work. Because in Silicon Valley, I said that before, we're not doing Me Too products, we're doing different products. So your product has to be unique, okay? Has to change the status quo. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that it's just, the loser, usually it's a swarm culture. It's basically you're going everywhere, you try to do everything, you're swarming, butiner, like you say in France, okay? When Silicon Valley is really about execution, everybody will tell you that. It's about, stay laser focused on one thing and do it right and do it great. Until it's not great, you don't move and you don't do anything else until this thing is amazing. So you stay focused. So usually when you ask, the question to a loser of his roadmap, he's going to say, this is everything we're going to do. And the winner will say, this is what we're not going to do. By the way, that's very interesting. If you move to Silicon Valley, you need to have a clear roadmap in mind in terms of product. Everybody's going to ask you about what is your roadmap. And your roadmap is not only about, okay, I know, but we're going to develop that later. That's a bad answer, wrong answer. You need to explain why you don't have this feature right now, okay? Because you can explain what we're not going to do now, because it doesn't matter, okay? This is part of the focus, also. The losers stay in a niche market. When the winner, well, at least in Silicon Valley, everybody is trying to get mainstream. Uber is not a company. When you take the analogy with Hollywood, it's exactly the same. Hollywood is not doing movies for American guys. Hollywood is doing movies for the entire world. Spider-Man is not a movie for US guys. Spider-Man is a movie for everybody. It's maybe a shitty movie. You can say whatever you want about the movie, but the reality is that it's a mainstream movie, okay? When you take a movie like Les Petits Mouchoirs, I love this movie because I'm French. I tried to show this movie to American guys. They were like, what the hell is that? What is this story? So this one is making love with this girl, but in fact, this one is gay. So they don't get anything, because it's very tailored, to our culture. It's a niche movie. It's a great movie. That's fine, but that's not what we're doing in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is like Hollywood. It's not scenarios, it's startups. You need to think a startup, for the entire world. And not only a startup, for even San Francisco. I'm not saying that all the startups in Silicon Valley are doing, are on the winner side. That's exactly why I didn't put, Silicon Valley and the rest of the world. Don't get me wrong. There is a ton of startups, in Silicon Valley doing on the loser side. So don't worry. I'm not talking here about you. I'm talking about loser and winners. And loser and winners are everywhere. Yeah, but that Facebook is like, how do you call this concept with Nazi, and stuff where you always end up, with, it's exactly the same. You can take Facebook, it's all the rivers, all the time. You're right. No, they maybe started, local, but their mindset, were mainstream, So, that's basically that's not what I'm saying. It's really about the mindset, and thinking. It's not about the doing. It's about the thinking, Okay? So, that's interesting. So it's kind of the same as local, global. We talk about this global vision. It's really about building a global culture. I'm more talking here about culture. You need to think about a global culture of what you're doing and not a local culture. Unless, your product and your market is local, what is totally fine. Okay, that's totally fine. I'm not talking about these startups, also. What is interesting is that I love that, that you believe that it's about bringing on resources. So a lot of times, I see startups saying, I cannot do it because I need engineers, I need developers, blah, 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 and until I don't have these guys, I can execute my vision, blah, 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 blah. Shit, no. Roll up your sleeves. Find a co-founder that can develop, Do your homework. Develop stuff. You cannot wait, for having everything on the table, to execute. It never happens. So you have to do something. And what is interesting is that it's not about fun. I know that a lot of times, people are very motivated to create startup because it's going to be fun. It's a shitty work. I mean, it's really CEO. You know what it means? It's Chief Excrement Officer. This is what it means. You're dealing with shit every day. It's not fun. It's fun on TechCrunch, when you read it, but when you do it, it's not fun. It's really not fun. From day one to the end, it's painful. It's really painful. Playing at Barcelona is not fun. When you're on the field, and when you play, and when you have to run and score, I can tell you, I've been a player, not at Barcelona, but it's not fun. It's hard. It's tough. Okay? Land grab, real growth. That's interesting. Land grab is about, okay, first I'm going to do this country, and then after I'm going to do this second country, and then after I'm going to do, this third country, and every time I'm going to adapt, my engine to these different countries. That's not real growth. You have to have in mind and invent a model that you can apply to basically everywhere. Yes, it's going to be difficult. Look at Uber. It's difficult, but they have the same model. It's basically the same app with the same service everywhere. And that's why they're really real growth, doing real growth. It's not about the land grab, It's not opportunistic. I love this one. The loser invests ahead of results, when the winner invests based on results. So stay lean. Bootstrap your startup until you have some results. When you get results, then start investing. So don't think about, I need to raise, I've got the opportunity to raise $2 million, I'm going to raise this money, and then I'm going to invest this money, to get results. No, you should accept money, from investors when you start having results, even if they are small results. But if you have a real growth and start having results, that's when you raise money, not before. And I told you, it's not going to be fun. Yes, it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. On both sides, it's always about winning. Even the loser, wants to win. That doesn't change. So, very quick, I love this one. It's basically, these are the chapters, of young tech foreign startups, So we got this first phase, that is amazing, is what I call the apartment phase, that, we got a cool idea, we're gonna make some t-shirts, business cards, and okay, we're gonna cut some stuff, okay, it's not perfect, that's fine, and we're gonna borrow money to our friends and family, and we're gonna eat pizza, because we don't have a lot of money, For me, that's the best, phase, that's where you have the best moment, That's really the most exciting part. But the problem is it doesn't last for long, Then you get to the second phase, is like, look, man, we're real. So what does that mean? So you get office, employees, vendors, customers, and you start doing, you target, local customers. Oh, I just signed Société Générale. Amazing, you're in trouble. You're going to suffer, and he's laughing because he knows what I'm talking about, with Blue Kiwi software. That's exactly the problem we had, Got too many local customers, And you start customing, code. Yeah, because Société Générale, at BNP Paribas is the same, so don't get me wrong. But when you go to sign with these guys, they have a magic sentence. They're always like, yes, but we are different. Yeah, I know, BNP Paribas told me exactly it's the same, by the way. Yeah, we are different, so we need something different, we need a special card, with special features. And because it's Société Générale, come on, it's not nothing, You're going to start developing custom code, only for Société Générale. That's when, the problems, begin. Okay? And you're going to raise money with local investors. Of course. And then the third phase is what I call the stuck phase. That's when you're doomed. what happened? You start having employees, here, because you don't have a clear vision and you don't have this ambition that motivate people, then you start hiring, firing. Yeah, it was not really aligned with our vision. But what is your vision? I don't know, okay, fine, you don't have vision. That's why, the guy is not aligned with your vision, because in fact, you don't have vision, that's the problem. So you start hiring, firing. And then you start doing better at everything. Well, okay, so we need more customers, so we're going to do better marketing, okay? And then we need, we have more customers, so we need to do better card. Okay, fucking customers, they ask for more card, they want more features, blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, these investors, these local investors, they don't understand anything, so I'm going to fly, to Silicon Valley because I need better investors, okay? When you're here, you're stuck. And you're in trouble. So you need to escape, before. Why? Because better doesn't work. Different does. Okay? And the first, was a woman who said that in order to be irreplaceable, one must always be different. If you're different, okay, if you can say to your customer, for example, yes, we don't have this feature, but we are different, okay? And I'm going to sell you your vision, and this feature, I'm going to explain you why you don't need this feature, even if you're Société Générale, because I've got something higher, to sell you, okay? Then they're going to start believing in the fact that you're different, and there is something very interesting, is the fear of missing out. That they're going to say, okay, so they're different, maybe if we don't buy that, we're going to be in trouble, because they're different. And maybe BNP Paribas is going to buy it, And then you start, managing that, with them. That is very interesting. And then here, you're not stuck. So how are you different? Okay, different way to be different. But basically, I know what you're thinking. Being different, it's scary. You're this one. Because you're being different. And everybody's saying you, hey, stop, you will get eaten, come back with the pack. Come, stay with us. You're in security, with us, I know it's difficult, but that's the only way. That's why people, are moving to Silicon Valley, to be different. And they move from the pack, and the pack can be everywhere. I know it requires, some courage. I know, it's hard, it's scary. I don't have solution on that. But how do you do that? The first thing you need to do is to stop. If you're on the stuck phase, if you're in this phase, I don't know if that's the case, stop, change, start. That's basically this is your mission, okay? And how do you do that? I'm gonna end up, with that. Is basically, it's very experimental, I'm working on that, right now. I don't know if maybe I'm wrong. That's where I am, right now with my thinking. But basically, we try to put together what we call the cross-border end-to-end process. So the first phase, it's do your homework and do not expect everybody else, to do this work for you. You have to come up, with a problem. The second thing is a BHAG. So this is a BHAG. BHAG means a big, hairy, audacious goal. This is a big, hairy, audacious goal. It's basically what you stand for, it's like Superman, et cetera, et cetera. So you need something that is giant and worthy. So I put some examples, here. So for example, Google say, we want to organize the world's information and make it universally, accessible and useful. Uber is saying transportation as reliable as running water everywhere for everyone. That's the kind of thing that it's not like a mission statement only, it's really something that you stand for, okay? And this is something, when you pitch, you have to get in mind. I know sometimes here in France, people are like, but they're wrong. You need something like that. That's something that drives you, Because as I said, this work is shitty. So if you don't have something like that makes you wake up in the morning, you're not going to wake up. If you don't believe in something like that, if you don't have something that is higher, bigger, stronger than you, okay, you're not going to have the motivation, and nobody is going to work, at your company also if you don't have something like that. So the thing you need is really that, big, hairy, audacious goal. It doesn't require any money. That's good news. You don't need to raise $1 million, to have a big, hairy, audacious goal. Okay? You can buy some hairs. Maybe Usama have some, to share. The third thing you need is market. You need a market. You need to understand your market. And I'm very surprised, that most of the time, startups I talk with, they don't have a good sense. They know their market, but they don't have numbers. They don't have data, on their market. Okay? So, for example, when I was talking with Holberton, I don't know if you know Holberton, this school, in San Francisco. Julien Barbier, the guy who started, the 42, Wild 42 stuff, et cetera. He's the guy who told me that US is going to need 1.5 million developers in 2020. There is only 400,000 right now in schools. It's data, about the market. It make it obvious, right now. So you need to do your homework and get, some data like this that you can pitch, that make, the problem very interesting with data about the market. The fourth thing you need also is a POV. It's a point of view. It's nothing to do with a big, hairy, audacious goal. A point of view is something like that. Is what you stand for, what are you attacking, and what makes you different. And you should explain that in 2-3 sentences, really. And that's what you're going to pitch in Silicon Valley. This is what we stand for, this is the market, we are attacking, and why are we making, that different. And that's very interesting. And you need a team, the best team you can. It doesn't mean that you need people from Stanford or whatever. Try just to make a team that is qualified, to solve this problem, that have a story, maybe with this problem, whatever. Something that makes this team have a string attached, with the story, they're telling. And that's very interesting, too. And the last thing you need is a demo. You need to show your product. We don't care about ideas. You need to show something. This is something you can do in the apartment phase without any money, really. And you have to do all that before anything else. Now, the second phase is if you plan to move to Silicon Valley, you need to go into an accelerator. And I'm not saying that because we are one. You can go to 500, YC, wherever you want. But do not consider, to move to Silicon Valley without going to going through an acceleration program. This is suicidal. You're gonna die. You need support. It's hard. It's very hard. So you need the support of people. Just for one thing that is very important, because you need the network. And when you get there, you don't know anybody. So you need people to introduce you to other people. Okay? It's like a family. You know what it is. It's the same here. And then when you get into this accelerator, don't get wrong, you don't have to flip your company, to Silicon Valley. You can build a cross-border culture where you can have engineering, or some of the stuff, in Europe, and some of the stuff, in Silicon Valley. That's what you should rebuild. That's a new model. What is interesting is that all these first, step, okay, the homework and the support and network, you can do that with love money. Don't raise any money, don't raise a seed round or a Series A, to do that. You just need a couple of $100,000 to do that. Even $50,000, $100,000 is enough, to do that, okay, to get there. Then after doing this second step, this big, building your minimum viable product. We're going to talk a little bit about what is a minimum viable product. Validate your market in the US and start, having growth. I'm not talking exponential growth, but just prove, that you have some traction, okay? That's something you can do with a seed round. And you can do this seed round here or in US, or better, in both sides. That's the best. And once you get there, then you scale. That's when you start, going big. And when you start going big, you need a Series A in US because they have deep pockets. Because when you're gonna need, $100 million, to go scale and go big, they've got the money for that. That doesn't mean you cannot have, some investors in Europe, but you need at least, a US guy in your cap table, okay? Because the pocket they have is different, okay? Just quick mention about the MVP. What is the MVP? It's not from me, this is an MVP, okay? If you try to build a motorcycle, start building that, okay? That's an MVP. That's maybe something you're gonna throw away after. It's just something to prove something. That's what the MVP is about. To prove an assumption you have, okay? And then after, when you've proven that, you can throw it away, and start building your real product. So maybe it's something with just one feature that proves that people have this problem, that there is a market, and that they're ready, to spend money, to solve this problem. You don't need something big, to do that. Could be something small. So this is it. Yes, love, of course, all the time. Hope to see you soon in Silicon Valley, maybe. If you've got a great project, if you've got a great ambition, and if you want to make it big, we're here for that, we're helping you. That's something interesting because all the time, people were saying, if you go to Silicon Valley, there is nobody there waiting for you. This is not true anymore. We're there, and we only focus on foreign funders. We import, foreign gems, to the Silicon Valley. That's exactly what we're doing, okay? And we accelerate, the raise of international, startups in Silicon Valley, trying to focus really to make you understand how do you have to behave, and adapt your strategy, to succeed not only in Silicon Valley but everywhere. Thank you for your attention. Have any questions?
So I understand that HR is not the reason to move to the Valley.
No.
Because we have good HR here and good
Yeah.
talents. So the main reasons to move is the network here and the market.
And the money?
Oh, okay, and the money. So what is the most important for you, and do you think that you can target the US without being in the US?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
So first answer is that you cannot target, first of all, one thing important. Silicon Valley is not US. Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley has nothing to do with US. If you want to target US, go to New York. New York is nothing to do with Silicon Valley. If you envision, US just as a market, you know what I mean? Like just to expand your business in a new market, don't go to Silicon Valley. You go to Silicon Valley because you want to get inspired, by this internet nation, okay? That the family is talking to you every day, and they're doing a great job because they import, this culture here in Paris, and you're very lucky about that. But if you want to get inspired, by that, truly, on a daily basis, 24 hours a day, and network with the people who are really building this internet nation, that's why you move to Silicon Valley, okay? So, what was your question?
You don't go for HR, so you go for...
You go for the culture. The first thing you go for is really for the culture, because it's something, it's just crazy, that you go to your hairdresser, and the guy, cutting your hair is explaining to you that he's just doing that because on the side he has a startup, and you start, talking with him about iOS development, and you get in an Uber, and the guy is the same. They don't have any grant or anything, they have to work, and everybody has a project, it's like the whole city is about technology. When you move to New York, it's not all about technology. There is guy in the media, entertainment, advertising, finance, etc., etc. San Francisco, Silicon Valley, it's only about technology. It's just technology, nothing else, It's depressing. If you don't like technology, don't go there. It's depressing. Everybody's in technology. Boring geek guys, all over, everywhere. So it's just about that. So that's why the people are why they're so strong, because all the population is focusing on just one thing: technology, digital, disruption. So you go there for the culture. The second thing you go there for is really the network. It's just incredible. First of all, Silicon Valley, the culture of the Silicon Valley, I cannot explain you everything here. You have to come to sort of the refiners if you want to understand everything. But the one thing very interesting in Silicon Valley is that the culture is very collaborative. I mean, that it's part of the game. You're going to have access to everybody. They're going to give you 30 minutes, of their time, even people that you cannot imagine, okay? And the rule of the game is to give something and get something out of that. If you don't give, you don't get something. I mean, that there is a sharing economy of knowledge, because everybody has a project you don't know. I give you an advice, maybe it's very early, but you will remember that, tomorrow. And when you got something very interesting, you will get back to me because I help you. And I was not expecting anything back in exchange, for that, but it's just the way it is in Silicon Valley. Everybody, that's why we invented, this working space, incubators and accelerators where everybody, work together, because that's the culture. There is a culture of collaboration, on a daily basis. Very small collaboration all the time. I give you a contact, and you give me another contact. And also something very interesting is that there is a real culture of transaction, what is absolutely not something very uncommon here. Everything is a deal. I mean, if I give you a contact, I'm expecting you to give me a contact back. What's the deal? Every time you meet with someone, you need to build a deal, with him. Make a transaction. That's why, how people, are really the mindset of Silicon Valley. So, for example, one thing very interesting, when you go to Silicon Valley, you meet with people, and and most of the time, French people don't get that. The American guy, will tell you, how can I help you? And you're like, oh, these guys are amazing. They want to help me. They want to help me. Oh, they're so kind, so generous and stuff like that. No. What it means is that the guy didn't get the deal. He doesn't understand the deal. How can I help you means, what are you expecting from me? Okay, that's exactly what he's meaning, And when you tell me what are you expecting from me, I'm going to tell you what I'm expecting from you. And we're going to shake our hands, do a big hug together, because we've got a deal. So you need to go there to build deals. And when French guys, go there, they don't do deals. They're like, I met with a lot of people. That was cool. How many deals did you make? Deals? No, I need to know the people. Maybe I need to meet with his wife and his son, and stuff like that, and build a 10 years relationship and go play golf, blah, blah. No, you don't need that. Just one meeting is enough, to make a deal with someone. So that's part of the culture. And the network. Network is incredible. And it's incredible also for another reason that is not really obvious when you think about it. The time zone. Because we have 9 hours of difference, with the rest of the planet. Europe and the East Coast go to bed. Asia haven't wake up yet. Okay? So we've got something like 6 to 8 hours where we're alone in the planet. There's nobody else. And guess what we do? We collaborate. And this is a magic time. And that's when, magic deals happen. If you're in Paris, you're not in a magic zone. You're not where the deals are going on. You're not making these deals. You're not part of it. You remember the Lego movie? Everything is amazing. But the most important is the second part of the sentence, If you're part of the team, everything is amazing. If you're part of the team. So if you want everything to be amazing, you need to be part of the team. And to be part of the team, you need to be there. By the way, I think that this Lego movie is really an analogy of the Silicon Valley, by the way. Look at the movie, right now again, and think about that. You will see. Silicon Valley. All Silicon Valley about.
Can you explain why it is always easier to an American startup to get in any country in the world, like Amazon, Google, Facebook, whatever. But when, for example, Vente Privée tried to go to USA, they just went out of the market by losing hundreds of millions of dollars.
Imagine you visit Silicon Valley and you bring back to your wife a purse made in Palo Alto. She's not gonna be very happy. She prefers, a purse made in Paris. It's always more chic, always, to buy technology made in San Francisco. Like it's more chic to buy a purse, made in Paris. Yes, but if you do mustard, go to Dijon. You know what I mean? It's always better, to put in your product made in Dijon, okay? If you do technology, it's always better. There is a company, I don't know if they were part of the family, I don't think so. It's a company, French company that moved to Silicon Valley and they just changed their address, on the website, they just put their address in San Francisco. And the day they did that, they started to have press release, saying, oh, this guy in Silicon Valley got everything. When they were existing, for 2 years, in Paris doing exactly the same, but because they were in San Francisco, it's a BS. It's basically, that's when I say, Silicon Valley is toxic. That's part of the toxicity, of Silicon Valley. I cannot explain that, but it's always, if you do B2B software, and I know what I'm talking about because I was doing that, with Christophe. If you're in Paris, when it comes to make a decision for a global software for the entire company, the guys prefer always, to buy a software that is made in US. I don't know why. Because you not get fired, maybe, when you buy from IBM, for example. I bought, the software from IBM. I didn't make any mistake. I didn't buy, software from a small, startup in France or whatever. I bought that from a big guy or from a startup, that is in the press, in Silicon Valley, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just that, I think that's why, it's easier, for them, okay? It's not because they are Americans, it's because they're there, So you can do that, the same, if you get this global culture and you're not a tourist and you incorporate, there and you start playing the game, with exactly the same rules, nobody will avoid you, to put the address of San Francisco on your website and start, building a story that looks like a startup, in Silicon Valley. It's not because you're French, you cannot do that, But I do purses, I do fashion, and you put Paris, and it's a big argument, to sell, If you do technology, mobile, social network, I put San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and it's a big argument, to succeed. I'm not saying I agree with that, but that's the reality, it's one of the reality of the Silicon Valley.
So you're helping foreign startups thrive in Silicon Valley. Foreign startups, where are you active outside of Europe? Are you anywhere in Middle East and Africa?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So first of all, it's a very early project, so we're just starting. And because I'm French, my partner is French, so we're going to start, with the French ecosystem because we've got access to this ecosystem, and I think there is very talented, founders and startups, here. So we're going to start here, but our vision is not to bring, French, startups, only. So we want to bring foreign founders, from everywhere, So we're going to expand that from other countries in Europe. I'm also from Spain. There is very interesting stuff going on in Barcelona. And of course, we're naturally going to expand, that to other countries. But what is interesting is that everything that is 50 miles away from Silicon Valley is a foreign startup. Our vision is really that I think that if you come from Miami and you go to Silicon Valley, of course, you've got the language, that's fine. You maybe have a piece of the culture, but you're a foreigner, really. Well, you don't have a visa problem, that's true. Or maybe yes, actually, if you're from Miami. Anyway, we're talking right now with startups from South America. There is very interesting, we're talking with a Mexican startup, Argentine startup, and a Brazilian startup. Very interesting, there is very interesting stuff going on in South America. So yes, I mean, it's just that we try to get focused, on, we've got a go-to-market strategy, so we're going to start first, with friends, okay, just to try, because we know that we have the leverage and we understand correctly, the culture gap, that exists in between these two countries or continents, but then we're going to expand. And the way also to expand is going to be maybe also to bring people from these countries, in our team, to recruit, people, from these other countries. I can talk with a European guy. I'm not sure I can talk with an African guy. I don't know the culture. I mean, I don't know enough. The culture. So maybe if we want to go there, we have to strengthen our own team. With people from these countries. That we can find in Silicon Valley. People from there. There is people from everywhere. In Silicon Valley.
Okay, so basically, it's Europe and South
for
America so far.
Yeah. For now, it's everywhere. But. Our efforts going to be first in France, then in Europe, and then the rest of the world, in the following years.
So what differentiates the refiners from other cross-border type of accelerators that help people into Silicon Valley? What's your differentiators?
With who?
I mean, there are other...
cross-border?
Yes.
Who's that?
There's nobody.
Give me a name.
Nobody else outside of Silicon Valley.
Give
I'm not sure. I'm asking you.
Give me a name.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
So if you don't give me a name, that means that they don't exist. That doesn't mean they don't exist, but I don't give a shit to them. If you're not able to give me a name of a company that is sharing, apartments all over the world.
I don't know any.
Come on.
Anybody?
A startup, that share, your apartment.
Other than Airbnb.
Okay. Nice. So they exist, So I cannot ignore them because I can ask that even to my mom, my mother, she can give me the name. So that means they exist. Now, if you cannot give me a name, I mean that maybe they exist, but it's just a question of execution. So my job is to execute faster and stronger and better than them. That's exactly what I'm doing. The day you can give me a name, I'm in trouble.
Just a kind of related question. You said it's all about problems and being global, but if
global problems.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is there problems that can only fit a local market or national market, and should they be still global?
That's an interesting question. What I'm saying, I'm not saying, that local market is not interesting. I'm just once again, I'm just saying that's not what we're looking for, okay, at the refiners, and that's not what the Silicon Valley is building, they're not building startups, to stay local, in San Francisco. They want to build startups and invest, in startups that have a global footprint. Okay, that's what I'm saying. That doesn't mean a startup that is local, has no interest. This is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying this is not the mindset of Silicon Valley. But it could be very interesting. Look at BlaBlaCar, for example. That's a very good example. They're not in the US, and they shouldn't be in the US because there's no interest, for them to be in Silicon Valley. Does that mean that BlaBlaCar is not interesting? Of course it's interesting. And it's a very local market. It's just that it's not something that Silicon Valley will produce. Okay, they will invest maybe in late stage, and that's exactly what they're doing. But at first glance, at the beginning, at the early stage, they won't consider, a startup like this. They will go after these startups, later, for a Series C or Series D or something like that in a later stage. And that's exactly what they're doing. But when it comes, to early stage companies, that they're looking for early stage companies solving global problems that can go mainstream. That's exactly the canvas, they have in mind. Doesn't mean that local startups doesn't have any interest or any sense. I'm not saying that. Don't get me wrong, okay? Because sometimes I can be a little bit crunchy and pushy, and that's not what I mean. If you got a great startup that is local, doing a great job, that makes I don't remember, there was a guy, here, it was like Airbnb for food, where people are cooking at home and you can share your dishes, with your food, with your neighbor and stuff like that. Actually, that maybe it's something that can go global. I don't know, but that this is kind of stuff, that can be can be interesting. Airbnb didn't start, in Silicon Valley, by the way. Remember, they went to Silicon Valley after. Facebook also, when they scale, after. Yeah.
When you arrived in Silicon Valley 7 years ago, what was the biggest mistake that you made?
What? Excuse me?
What was the biggest mistake you made?
All of them. Everything I told you before, I did all of them. I was on the loser category. Do you agree with that? Did you recognize us? In this loser slide, you recognize me. Thank you. No, I was exactly. Where is that? No, it was. Yeah, I was here. We were here. Sorry, you say me, but by definition, we were all here. Yeah. We did all these mistakes. So basically, I moved to Silicon Valley to expand the business of Blue Kiwi Software. That was an enterprise social network here in Europe. We did a great company, and we built, an amazing company, an amazing technology here in Europe. And then in 2010, we decided to move to Silicon Valley to expand, our business, because we considered, Silicon Valley as a market, well, US as a new market. What was the first, mistake? And not as a way, to change and change the culture of the company or change the product or everything. And long story short, we sold the company to Atos for a very good price. That's fine. We all made money. But Yammer sold the company to Microsoft for $1 billion, when we didn't sell for this money. I can guarantee you, And they started after us, but they started with this mindset, really. They were really in this category. And we're doing basically the same product. We were even, before them, okay, on the market. We were even, when they started, if I remember correctly, making more revenue than Yammer at some point. But we had 200 clients when they had 100,000, okay? So we went, for example, just an example, the go-to-market strategy we had when we entered, US was exactly the same one than here in France, direct sales. Sales guys, going to clients. When you go to US, how do you do that? The country is a continent, so you cannot send a sales guy, to Salt Lake City and then the next day to St. Louis and the other day to Miami, and it doesn't work. So you need another go-to-market strategy. You need to think about, a strategy that is no sales, and that's exactly what Yammer did, with a bottom-up strategy and a freemium strategy when we didn't have that. So we did all these mistakes, and I think that part of the reason, we are, and I'm not the only one, all the entrepreneurs, that moved to Silicon Valley made a lot of mistakes, and that's why we're creating, the refiners really because we've been through that, We've been through this challenge, and we just want to share, that, with the people entering the market, where instead of spending, 18 months or 24 months, to understand all that, we think that if we join together and we put together something, a program, to share that, with people, it can take much less time, to understand, and less time means less money. You're gonna save money, and you're gonna build a network with great people who did that before. That's really the motivation we have. So yeah, I was on the loser side. Thank you guys. You can go to bed. Thank you.